Hello there, I'm just about to make a card using distress inks and some spritzing and a stamp set from paper tray ink called Painted Petals, which I haven't used much, but it's got some nice images and I think it might be quite good for this sort of watercolory background that I want to try. I've got a few blue distress inks here and I'm going to start with those, I think. Got some chipped sapphire. I like the combination of blues. A little bit of Mermaid Lagoon, just to zap things up a little. And instead of just using plain water, I've got a very, very weak, watery little, it's actually a Perfect Pearl spray mister that I've had for a long time, and it's run out. So I've just filled it with water. You can hear the ball still in there. I filled the pot with water, so it's very, very dilute. So normally one would just spray the inked stamp with a bit of plain water, but to give it a little bit of glitz, I'm just going to use this watery Perfect Pearls and see if that gives it a bit of a glimmer. I'll just do that off screen, just giving it, it's probably a bit much, but a spray with the Perfect Pearls. I'm just using a bit of, it was a bit much water on that. I'm just using some Nina Solar white paper to spray onto. I've got my cloth there to dry this off. Try to get a bit less water on this one. Using chipped sapphire, and I'm just going around the edge with a bit of Salty Ocean. And a little tiny swipe in the centre, around the centre of that, with some Mermaid Lagoon. Again, I've put a little much on it, I think, but we'll just see how we go. Leave it to soak in a bit. I'll just do a couple more of that one. I think I might use the more solid stamp. It might just give me a slightly better look. I've got a much larger piece of cardstock here than I need. Do a couple more of these. Use Salty Ocean. Because I'll cut out the piece that I like the look of for the card front, and you can often get enough from leftover pieces to make a bookmark or something like that. I want a card to take into my sister who's in hospital, and a bookmark might be a good idea. Take her in something to read. Just swap that stamp over to the other image. This one is the same flower but more of a solid image rather than petaley. I just think it might just give a bit of a different look. I don't know about the card, but I'm certainly getting a very shimmery hand from that Perfect Pearls. You wouldn't think there was really enough on there to make things shiny. It's 99% water, but I could add some more Perfect Pearls to the pot. But sometimes, you know, you just need the faintest little glimmer. You don't want too much of a good thing. Can't really go wrong making a background with these sorts of watercolory washy images. It's quite interesting to see how it pans out. Not to get too hung up about structure and form. It can be quite liberating, especially for someone like me who like things organised and precise. This is a nice way to play. I think I'll just try one more in the middle there. And do some leaves. Got some interesting puddles of sheeniness there, which is quite nice. Just do a couple more of these. Just to break up that solid a bit. Make it a little wispier. For the flowers, I'll have to clean those. They've got some glit on them. Now, I was going to do the leaves in the same blues, but I think I might try just introducing the green. And for these I'm going to use water, not perfect pearls. Let's see how we go with these. That's peeled paint and forest moss. Just picked up the wrong one then. I think, no, maybe just one more up in that little spot there. That's often the hardest thing, is to know when to stop. There we go. I'll just leave that now, go and clean up, and while that dries, and I'll be back shortly to do the finishing touches. See you soon. Here we are, it's pretty much dry. It's a little bit sheeny, which is nice, and I'm just going to go over it with little dotty stamp, the centre, I guess they're stamens, and I'll just add that to the centre of these. I always think a little bit of black often gives a little bit of style to things, a bit more contrast and oomph. There we go. Now I'll just let that finish drying, and then I'll cut it out and see what we can make of it. I've got myself a 5.5 inch, or what's that, that's about 14 centimetre square card base. Nice heavy Nina solid white paper that makes a good base. And now I'm just going to trim this out. It's about 12.8 centimetres, just under 13 anyway, or 5 inches. I'm just going to trim it out where I think I can get, I think I'll use that side, and again, yeah, that'll give me a nice little border on my card. I'm not brilliant at actually getting a card edge to edge. I'd rather leave a little border. I think that looks okay. So that'll do for my card. And I've got these nice little pieces here, so I might make a couple of smaller cards with that piece, and maybe a bookmark with this. Might put a little bit more green just on a couple of spots there. And this one, what do we got? Cut it there. Almost identical the sizes. So that'll be 2 little gift cards and either a tag or a bookmark. Might make it into a tag. Okay. Now I just need to get sentiment panels for this one and some bases for this, and make a decision on this, and I'll be right back to you. I've adhered the panels, the cutout panels, onto small card bases. These ones are, the little panels were 3.5 inches, so I put them onto a 4-inch card base, 8x4, and the larger piece I've added to a 5.5-inch card base. So they're done, and I don't know how, maybe you can catch the gleam there, I think you can catch it over here. The gleam from the perfect pearls, instead of using water, really does show up nicely. It's subtle, but it's quite attractive without being too fussy. Now those I'm just going to leave. I'm not going to put a sentiment on those just yet because I'm not sure what I'm going to use them for, so I'll just leave them to this stage. Here's one I've prepared earlier when I was playing with all blues, and this was the one I did with water rather than perfect pearls, and just a simple little panel in the middle looks quite nice, or some other sentiment. Sometimes they don't even need a sentiment, but I'll do something like that with these once I know what I'm going to use them for. So that's those cards done. I was going to make this little piece into a bookmark, but I decided I'd make it into a little gift tag. I'm always looking for little cards to pop on a parcel, or with a bunch of flowers, or something you've made in the kitchen to take to somebody, and I thought this would be quite nice. So I rummaged through my little box of cuts and found that piece of blue, which I thought complemented the colour, and I've got a little bit of green which should look quite nice, and I've just got a little stamp that says thanks, and that's from another paper tray ink set called Embroidered Blooms, and it's got some nice, I like the font in those, and I use them quite a bit. So this one says thanks. I'm just going to stamp that on the bottom of this little bit of green. Normally remember too late with that. And I've chosen my homemade platinum mix for this, for the embossing powder, because it's got a nice silvery tinge to it. It's just gold and fine silver mixed. And I do have a tub of the commercial, I think it's a Ranger platinum embossing powder, liquid platinum, but I prefer, which I use quite often, but this time I think I'm going to use the little homemade one because it's just a little more silvery. Let's tidy this up a bit. I find a damp paintbrush. It's the best way just to get those stray little pieces, although I sometimes go through and scrape them off. I find sometimes some of my older embossing powders seem to be worse than the fresher ones. They seem to have little hairy bits in them that seem to move the powder. I don't know whether it's just the older style or whether they've gathered dust. Making a bit of a noise here. There we go. See that platinum thanks is quite nice, and it'll just pick up the similar sheen. the metal edge. Not quite straight. That looks better. That'll do it. I've just been gluing these panels on because it makes them good and sturdy, and a little spell under the Webster. Make sure they're well adhered and beautifully flat. It doesn't seem to take long, just a few minutes. These other little square ones didn't take too long, they just had a quick press. But it does make all the difference too when you use wet adhesive. It makes a good difference. I've put a little sparkly heart on the back of that one. Make sure that looks straight, and I can see a tiny little bit of embossing powder just there where it doesn't need to be. I think that's got it. The rest will be fine. So there's that little one. And this will just be a little gift card to put with, a box of biscuits or something you take somewhere when you go visiting. And there we have it. That's the watercolour process. Just using some distress inks and spraying or spritzing them with Perfect Pearls instead of those four are the Perfect Pearls, and this one is just the plain water. And while it's quite pretty, it hasn't got the little bit of glitzy shine that these have. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed that. Again, it's another very simple technique, but a useful trick. And you can make a nice collection of cards from just a single piece. This wasn't even a whole piece of cardstock, it was just a probably about an 8-inch square piece. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye now.